Welcome to the Awakened Collective, where we explore the topics of love, spiritual consciousness, and our divine purpose on this planet. Join us as we uncover the truth that our thoughts shape our reality. Happy Sunday morning, and it's a beautiful morning here in the Jackson, Mississippi area. I am Rick Gregory. Welcome to the Awakened Collective podcast. So glad to have you here, where we always want to remind you that you have never been separated from your Creator by whatever name you choose to call your Creator. You are the divine extension of your Creator's love on this planet. We have never been separated from one another, not for a nanosecond. Can you believe that? We have never been separated from one another. I'm so glad to have you here this morning. I'm grateful for Daniel Anderson and Audio Alchemy Productions and the gift they are to the world. Thank you, Daniel. And we have a very special guest this morning. And before I introduce this wonderful guest, I want to tell you about why you're seeing a URL code up there on the screen if you're looking at this video live streamed to Facebook. I am asking for support, which is not something you hear me do very often. It's support in helping this amazing nonprofit called A New Entry that's based in Austin, Texas, where you've been listening to me for the last, I think, 8 episodes talking about emotional intelligence, Ascension Leadership Academy in Austin, Texas. And we have partnered with this nonprofit who are helping over 9,700 homeless individuals in the Austin area. The work that they are doing is amazing. So my graduating class number 19, has teamed up with them to raise $81,000 in these remaining 11 days prior to our graduation. We're more than halfway there. So click on the link and read about them and give to this amazing effort. Remember, the universe is moved by our giving and reciprocates an exponential measure. And I'm going to be talking about them some more in the days to come. I'm going to actually do a special podcast. Maybe next Sunday will be just a brief podcast, but one that's going to get into detail about all the wonderful things they're doing. And I have a personal story I want to share with you as well that causes me to rejoice in what they're doing because it's near and dear to my heart. So thank you for giving. Now let's move on to our very special guest. I want to tell you the story of how I came across this brilliant, beautiful soul. So one of my friends from the Ascension Leadership Academy in Austin, Texas, Jorge, who you may remember from a previous podcast, he was on here with me. He mentioned to me that one night he was at an event in Austin and ran into this wonderful being. They struck up a conversation, and I think it was a matter of minutes that he was reaching out to me saying, Rick, I just met this amazing woman at an event here in Austin, and you've got to have her on your podcast. She's incredible. So Jorge connected us, and I reached out to her, and she was the very first one, a member in the very first class of Ascension Leadership Academy in Austin. So she was in ATX 01. I was told by many people after sharing she was going to be on this podcast that she was their torchbearer from that class. The best news of all for me when we had our conversation was that she is friends with my son. Talk about a small world. My son, Andrew, who has also been on this podcast. Juls is a mom, an entrepreneur. She is an author, a publisher. She is a world changer. So may I introduce you to the brilliant and beautiful soul that is Juls Bindi. Juls, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Wow, that was a great intro. I was like, wow, who is this person who introduced me? I want to meet her.
It's so good to be with you. It's so much better than talking to you on the phone. We had one of those chats within a matter of minutes. It's like where Carl Jung's explanation of synchronicity came alive for me over and over again. So would you tell our viewers and listeners your amazing story, how your emotional intelligence journey with ALA impacted your life, this passion you have for life today and the mission you're on to impact the lives of children all over the world?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, a friend of mine enrolled me in ALA 3 years before I actually decided to show up. So much so where she was like, Jules, I'm going to pay for you. I'm going to pay for you. You get to go. And I was like, this sounds kind of, I don't know. Anyways, ALA ended up moving to Austin, Texas. And then I didn't really have any choice. You always have a choice. But I met Jenna, and she's the founder of ALA with her husband, Brad. And then I met them and I fell madly in love with them. I was like, wow, okay, what is this thing? I ended up going, and it transformed my life. And I don't say that very lightly with anything. I don't know if you know much about human design, but I'm a manifester, 1-3, a martyr investigator. So when I say something changes my life, it really means it had an impact that changed not only my life, but a lot of other people as well. So my emotional intelligence journey began, I would assume it came to me mostly when I started turning 24, 25. And I correlate manifestation with emotional intelligence as well. And that's kind of like, oh, your thoughts and words manifest into things. So when you think negatively, something negative is going to happen. And if you think positively, something positive is going to happen. What is this thing? And that was the introduction to Abraham Hicks. And that was, so I correlate a lot of that to somewhat of my emotional intelligence journey. And then going to ALA, I discovered so much about myself. It brought up a lot of childhood wounds and a lot of discomforts, a lot of abandonment issues where I got to dive deep and really just go in like real inner wounding. And it was amazing because it's things that we just push back and we ignore and we just like, it's there, but I don't need to address it. And like we were discussing, it's, the body keeps the score. Yeah. Your body will pay for it later on in stages. So going through this emotional intelligence journey, going through as ATX1, which is the first one here in Austin for ALA, I learned a lot about myself that I was playing small, and me playing small was other people's playing big. And that was very disappointing for myself, the way I saw myself showing up in this world. So I said, what do I get to do to change? What do I get to do to start showing up more for other people? Which also, if you give, it's actually you're receiving as well. And people are like, oh, I just give. It's like, yeah, because you're receiving too. There's always a balance. Would you agree to that?
You wouldn't have anything to give if you weren't receiving. We can't even give out a breath if we're not first taking a breath.
Exactly. And that's one of the many reasons why ALA, they do these, these programs with supporting nonprofits like the one you're supporting, which I highly recommend donating to because it's, it's mental health, right? A mental health issue here in Austin as well. So I'm really glad you guys chose that nonprofit, which is a beautiful thing. Well, after ALA, I ended up coaching it. And then I promised that I was going to come back to ALA and coach it every 3 years, which I did. I came back and was supported with ATX 17. And I don't know how many enrollments I have. I've probably well over 45 people that I've supported in going through the process, which has been such a miracle for myself as well. So then I turned into, becoming like, a mother. And so I was like, okay, well, I ended up going through this divorce. And I said, what if something happens to me? Like who's going to be responsible for my daughter's emotional intelligence and well-being if I pass away? Obviously she has her dad, but she won't have my downloads that I've received throughout the years of being alive. So I started creating children's books, and it was more children's books correlating around past traumas that I've actually dealt with or circumstances that's been happening with my daughter. One of the books that I will be launching very soon is called My Body, My Rules. And so what that does, it basically teaches children about personal boundaries and respect. And, it's basically just designed to empower children, about personal boundaries. And these are foundational aspects of developing a strong, confident child. I've had a lot of circumstances that has happened, I want to say for me, which a lot of people listening may not understand, through sexual abuse, sexual traumas. And it's basically supported me through my life and through my years in order to have more emotional intelligence and self-awareness about myself. So yeah, so this is My Body, My Rules is very dear to my heart. And so it's basically teaches kids about it's okay to say no. Like, what are your rules? What are your rules for your body? We have rules for our planet. We have rules for school. We have rules for our household. Like, literally, you have house rules. But what are your rules for your body? And being able to teach children that is very special. And Sage's rules are ask before touching me, and I can say no whenever I want to. So if we're playing, I'm like, Mom, will tickle you? She's like, yes, 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 tickle me. And then no, no, no. Then I stop immediately. And she's like, tickle me again. And I go again. So no means no. And that's teaching her a lot of different types of boundaries and respects with her friends as well.
It's powerful stuff. And, I can't help but, I'm benefiting so much from what I have learned. And I was on this journey a little while before I'm coming into ALA as well. As you said, I was reading Dr. David Hawkins and a lot of doing Course in Miracles. And so I was on this journey, and certainly it was healing for me to go in deep. But can you imagine the world we would live in if we started with our kids, helping them to recognize that they are creators by their thoughts, that they get to choose, that they don't have to accept what we accepted as kids, not realizing we had a choice, and then the damage repair that's needed as we get older. What a world we would live in if our kids got this. So I am really, really excited about what you have going on there, Jules.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so My Body, My Rules, that was the first one I wrote, but this is actually going to be the third book in my series. And I wanted to release this one first. My first one for the first book in the series is Welcome to Harmony Hills. And that's the whole land that Sage is in, where it supports her comprehending and being able to solve people's solutions. So Harmony Hills, Welcome to Harmony Hills is based upon a family gets a divorce, or the dad disappears, or the dad passes away. It's up to the reader to decipher what that story is. It's just Sage and the character. If you want to pull up what Sage looks like, she's a cute little girl bunny. And she's really sad that, her parents, are no longer together. And it discusses these big feelings that's coming up in her body. And so Sage is just more of like, Mom, I have some big feelings coming up. And so Mom says, where are you feeling in that? Where are you feeling that in your body? And it's also teaching not only kids, but it's also teaching parents about how to do reflective listening, how parents could just really drop in with their children and affirm that it's okay to be feeling this way, and agreeing with them in some sense. So yeah, I really do miss sometimes when, all of us were together and having an amazing time, and speaking the truth into that.
Now we're showing those pages. Oops, we'll go back if you want to talk about them. Are you seeing those on your screen there too, Jules?
Yes, I see them. So after every single book, I always have some affirmations. It's, that, I am confident in saying no. And each affirmations in the back is specifically correlates to whatever book it is. Like this one will be more of autonomy, right? I am a good friend in supporting others' rules. Manifest the best day ever. That's going to be teaching people about using their words, about the snowball effect, and how your words could actually change your day. This little girl gets hurt and manifests the best day ever. And she's like, oh my God, I'm having a bad day. And she's like, well, Sage says, well, you can change your outlook whenever you want. So yes, go ahead and have a bad day. But if you want to have a good day, say that you're going to have a good day and we're going to have a great time. And it just basically teaches kids about changing the perspective of how things happen, not to you, but for you, for a better outlooks and change.
That's awesome. Are you going to do audiobooks as well? Because you've got a great voice for it, what I just heard there.
Yeah, I think I'll do some YouTube videos and some more visual. Sage and in my family, we are a no screen time family. So yes, I'll probably definitely do Audible, and I will also probably do YouTube's reading things, which will probably have a little QR code on the book. So if you do have a book, you can actually see me and reading to children or reading to you in particular. I still haven't ironed out those details, but it's getting close.
That's awesome. And you talked to me on the phone too about publishing.
Yes, I decided that, okay, so what do I want to do? I'm probably going to be a self-publisher because the vision that I have for these books is much larger than just one children's books or 10 children's books or 20. I want a whole series of emotional intelligence children's books. So what better way in order to start a publishing company? So first, what I'm going to do, because I love manufacturing, I love marketing, I love creating. I created my first brand. I don't know if you know of Zugo Pet. I do crash tested dog car seats. I was featured on Shark Tank with that one. And then I do Zugo Bike, which is an e-bike company based out of Austin, Texas. And I just love creating and building. So I said, why am I not creating and doing my own publishing company called eqkidbooks.com, where I get to start forming it like the next Cat in the Hat, but for emotional intelligence? Because I know there's a lot of people that we know personally that has a children's book that they have in their mind, and they're just like, oh, I want to make this book. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to find a publisher. Well, I'm going to start a nonprofit for EQ Kid Books that will be able to support and pay moms or dads that have these amazing children's books and these amazing emotional intelligence children's books to put under the EQ Kid Books family. And I don't know what that looks like yet, but first I'm going to be building up the funnel and making sure I have the audience in order to support other families, bringing their vision alive as well, like Cat in the Hat did for so many other authors.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it wasn't a coincidence again, that synchronicity when we were talking, and I had just finished putting together my table of contents and chapters for my next children's book, which just came to me. It was, and it's the title of it is Mirror, Mirror Off the Wall, talking about how we are mirrors of each other, and that we look to each other. Like, I cannot even experience myself if it is not for you, and seeing ourselves as mirrors of one another. And so I, after just putting that together and then hearing that you were looking at starting a publishing company, it really excited me because I would love to be part of that. In addition to my book that's already out there, which I could have used some more help with, which was Harry the Hose Remembers His Purpose, which is on Amazon, that came to me from a vision that I had about a hose. So um, I'm really, really excited about what you're doing, and I want to be able to help in any way I can.
Thank you so much. And yes, your story about the hose, I'm just like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? Honestly, I love that book when you were telling me about it. It brought so much joy. And I haven't even been able to read it yet. And just the way you're describing it and how passionate you are and how intentional you are personally with words, you're really good at piercing through the layers and just being like, wow, that
Mm.
makes sense. Like, interesting. So yes, promote your book because it's brilliant and every single household should have it.
Well, thank you. Have you ever read the book series called Conversation with God or Conversations with God?
No, I have not.
It's a 4-book series that I just started reading, and man, I don't know, it just came to me, and I'm not gonna remember the author's name right now. And there's a section in there that talks about this guy just basically has all these questions like all of us do, and he would write down a question for God by whatever name you choose to call God, frequency or whatever the God is to you. He would write down a question and then would just wait until an intuitive thought came. And he would write down that intuitive thought. It took him 3 years to write. I think he said 3 years for the first book. And when you read those thoughts, those intuitive thoughts that he has now written down in this book, I mean, for me, they just click like I have always known that to be true. I have always known that to be true. I couldn't put it into words. It's been amazing. But he talks about wanting to take complex ideas and the ability to articulate them for folks that might be struggling with them, and that's been a passion of mine. I don't know where that comes from, but from the universe. I'm just wanting to make things simple because it is simple. It is
Yeah,
simple. Our thoughts create our reality.
yeah, I completely agree with that. And it's interesting how easy it sounds. Monitor your thoughts, think positive. And in reality, for people that's been thinking negative for so long, It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to reprogram your brain and your way of thinking and thoughts. And that's why we get to be very careful with how we are conditioning our children with our thoughts, because we are pouring into them.
Yep. I'm in the process of writing a book with my son Andrew, who is the one who brought me into ALA, and we've chosen a title of Invitation to Heal. It's a father and son's journey towards the healing of generational trauma,
Mm.
which I had and he had, because I brought that shit, pardon me, right into, my family, thinking that it had all been taken care of, and really being able to take a look at that. And I have a coach that said, Rick, I've been doing a lot of therapy for decades, and I've never heard of a father and son doing a book on emotional trauma, generational trauma, and the healing
Mm.
of that family trauma. So I'm really looking forward to
Mm.
that. I'm just
So,
moving on to chapter 3 right now, but
so many people can benefit from that. If you are breathing, if you are alive, if you are watching this, you have generational trauma
yes.
coming to you live here in Austin, Texas. This
Yes.
is the warning that you are going to be coming up with right now. Large storms, tornadoes, and generational trauma coming your way. If you don't
Yes.
address this now, your child will have to do it for you. So,
Oh, that is perfect. Actually, it was one of my quotes. Where was that one? But yeah, it's basically, if we don't, our children are just going to carry it forward, and it's just going to repeat, and it's going to be cyclical until someone is willing to take a look. I'm dealing with a family member right now, and have been for some time, who's gotten back into victim mentality, and just seeing the world as dark, and looking for everywhere this person looks, she finds evidence to support the way she thinks, because that's what happens when we get into those dark places. We will see things that will support the way we think. And it's hard, like you said, to break out of that. And well, I used to think that, thinking positive thoughts will make positive. I thought that was just crap. I really did, for years. Um,
yeah.
and yet, look at us. Who created us? I mean, we are created beings. We are the idea of a creator, and therefore we are co-creators. And how do we create? Everything starts with thought.
I completely agree. And I love how you mentioned the victim mentality. I was a walking, talking, big old stake in the ground victim person. And which made me really, that's what essential leadership actually helped me with, is moving through the victim mentality. And again, things are happening for us, not to us. And what's interesting, you mentioned that, is I actually support with coaching, and I do a lot of talks with a whole bunch of women, hundreds and hundreds of women, and also men, one on one, mostly with men, about victim mentality and about moving through the 4 quadrants of victim, which is, first, you're a victim. Something happens to you. And you're like, oh my God, they did this to me. They're just, a terrible human. Why would they do this to me? And, it's more of the act of betrayal. And then once you go through, I have a list of questions you can ask yourself. And which one are you moving through, and which quadrant are you in what circumstance? So there's victim, then you move into victimized, where it's like, oh yeah, I was robbed the other day. Totally, like, it sucked, but so they're talking about the incident, not about the feeling of what it felt like to be targeted. And then from victimized, you move into survivor. I'm a survivor of sexual assault. I'm a survivor of this betrayal. I'm a survivor of this. So it's a different mentality. It's a different vibration that you're holding on to in your body. And the last quadrant, the 4th quadrant of the victim cycle, is thriver. So from victim to thriver is, some people try skipping over those big questions and moving too quickly to where that's where you what? You bury yourself in the dirt and you hide the trauma and you hide the things that, it's more of like skipping over, right? You can't be going on a piano one day and then like expect you're going to be writing a masterpiece the next. It takes a while to move through it. But so that's kind of like what I support and I coach to with people one-on-one and in group settings.
That's awesome. Is there anything you don't do? That's
Well, obviously, right now, I'm not going to even go there. I was going to say, well, one thing I don't do is have a successful marriage. Right there.
Well, that's good because there's always room for growth and improvement and
Yeah.
evolution.
Yeah.
And I did find that quote. It's what we don't deal with from our past, we leave to our children as an inheritance. Mm,
Yeah.
that
I love that.
is
And the good thing, is I do a lot of picking on myself because it doesn't affect me anymore. And that's how you move into Thriver. If when you can make fun of yourself, or someone can
yeah.
say like a little pun on you, and you're just kind of like, ooh, that was good. I'm gonna write that one down.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, we've got to be able to laugh at ourselves, but like you said, it does take some time, and when you're in that place, and you also are looking for folks to support you in that place. I had a long conversation yesterday with my former wife, who I haven't talked to in quite some time on the phone. Talking about, when folks are in that place of victimhood, they are looking for anyone who will join that bandwagon. And it's frustrating for this individual when I say that I am not going to go there. That I love them. I want them, I see them as free on the other side of this, and that they're going to get through this. I will continue to love them, but I'm not going to participate in that negativity. I'm not getting on that bandwagon because I know what that does today, and I don't want to be putting that out in the universe.
Good for you. It's amazing, and that's exactly the way it's supposed to be. And again, the one of the main reasons why victims stay in the victim mentality is because they're surrounding themselves with
Yeah.
victims
Yes.
who
Yeah.
support their victim mentality.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 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 poor you. And then it's like, or how about interesting? Why do you think this happened? Why do you think this person did this? Or why do you think that happened? Do you know their past? Maybe they were abused when they were a child. Maybe that's the only way that they know that they can try to regain their power back. There's a lot of different stuff. Maybe this person has abandonment issues and they felt like they had to abandon you first because they didn't want to experience that pain again. There's so many different ways that we can go down in this tunnel. But victims normally attach themselves to victims
Yeah.
because they want to feel acknowledged,
Right.
heard, loved, appreciated, everything that person did not see in them.
Yeah. That is so true. And what helped me a great deal is, and I'm not sure where you stand on this, but I had read a book by Dr. Wayne Dyer, and it talked about soul contracts, or I don't know, maybe he used a different term, but the fact that we chose to come here to this planet at this point in time, we chose our families, we chose the experiences we would have, we chose them because we declared before coming to the planet what purpose we wanted to fulfill on the planet. And knowing that my purpose today, what my greatest desire is to see people set free, to see lives change, to see folks just get on the other side of the things that keep them from being all that they're created to be on this planet. Um, to wake up to the truth that we have never been separated from our creator, that we have always been forgiven, that we've never been separated from one another. That's my passion today. And when I look back at what it took to get here, I see a purpose for every thing. I mean, I went out and I wrote out why I chose my parents, the experiences that I had as a child, and how everything contributed to where I am today. And it helps me to let go of, there's no judgment. There just can't be.
That's actually one of the exercises I give people to see and to move them through the quadrants. So it's incredible how you do that so naturally, also in your essences. People probably tell you all the time that you have a very calm, loving, nurturing presence about you. So you're in the right work for sure. And I don't know if you like words of affirmation, but I can give you those all day long.
I love them. Thank you.
And I
I
agree with those soul contracts. I was with my ex-husband, we were together for 7 years, the good old 7-year itch, what they call. And it's just, sitting back and reflecting on everything, I'm just like, wow, he must really, really have loved me in this life to be showing me all of these lessons. And I'm very, very grateful for the lessons that was shown to me in these last 7 years to get me to where I am today, to my purpose of supporting and writing these children's books and doing some other bigger things that I'm feeling called to do now. And I'm just very grateful.
Yeah. And, you know, to stay in that place of gratitude is key. You know, that's what brings the joy and the life that we is our birthright, you know, but we, apart from gratitude and looking at everything, as you said, life happening for us and not to us. Um,
Yeah.
that's my desire for everyone around me. So it's a
Have
journey.
you, oh, I'm sorry. Have you heard of Abraham Hicks? I
I have.
mentioned it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I always got to say is to your viewers, if you're going through something and you've been depressed for a while and you're trying to figure out how to shake out of that, look up the emotional guidance scale. The emotional guidance scale, print that on your wall. If you're depressed, that is one of the lowest number vibrations that you can possibly have is depression. And then the top one is gratitude and love. And we're not asking you to move straight from depression to love, you know, move to the next one. The next one, I believe it's close to like anger, revenge. That's actually a higher vibration than
Yes.
being depressed.
Yep.
So if every day, if you can look and just be like, write a little note saying, you know, today is August 11th, put August 11th and write a date next to the feeling that you're having. And then hold on to that feeling because it's actually a higher one and higher level. And then you can actually see yourself where you're moving through in that emotional guidance scale, which can be supportive in a lot of ways. And if you end up moving down from, you know, from a higher vibration, and then you get to analyze what happened today to where it moved me back down, and what can I do now to move me back up to revenge or to hope or to something else like that. So that very supported me through my life.
That's awesome. And, you know, that also is the very first book that started me on this portion of my spiritual journey my son gave me was Letting Go by David Hawkins, and talks about the map of the level of consciousness, which is the same thing, you know, the shame and the guilt and the fear and all of that down the bottom of the scale, and that anger is a different vibration. Anger produces an action. You get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you're angry, and you'll do something, and you just see how you can move up that scale. And that was extremely helpful for me. What was that? You said the website or the product to look up again?
Oh, it's the emotional guidance scale. And it's, if you guys get the book, Ask and is Given by Abraham Hicks. Uh, you know, the Abraham, the consciousness, speaks about the emotional guidance scale. And that was the first time I read that book. I think I was 24 years old. So it's called the emotional guidance scale. And you'll just see a line of just words. And I think the middle one is hope, because like Obama, when he ran for president, what was his campaign about? Hope,
Yeah,
because that's the one thing everyone can reach. Everyone can be hopeful about something. And so he reached the vibration of everybody.
that's cool. I will look that up. I mean, I follow Facebook groups that have to do with Abraham Hicks, but I have not read any books, so I'm going to look that up.
Yes, Ask and It Is Given was one of the first people, that the first books that introduced me to manifestation and creating the life and wonder that I want in my life. And it's been amazing. I even went to go to one of their seminars, and they pick Abraham picks someone to speak in the audience. And I just walked in there knowing, I'm like, oh my gosh, Abraham is going to call on me if I raise my hand. And there's hundreds of people in the audience, and they pick maybe 5 people. But I just know manifestation to a strong sense. And I knew they were going to pick me. And when I walked up there, I raised my hand, they picked me. I walk up and I was like, I have no idea what question I'm going to ask. I just know I get to ask a question. And so at the time, I had a friend that was pregnant, and she was just deciding on getting an abortion or not. And so the question I asked them, what happens to a soul if you get an abortion? Because I was curious. I didn't know. I was 23 years old. And they said that soul came into that person's body to give them that experience. And they had the knowing that that was going to happen for them. She didn't say for them, but that's just in my programming now, for them and not to them. And so I'm like, okay, interesting. So like, then that soul will go find another body to have that experience in the same circumstances if that experience was going to happen and come through. And I was like thinking like, what? It didn't make sense to me. I'm like that's so weird. Like it's so interesting. But now it makes a lot of sense to me in a lot of senses. But
Yeah,
that's a little bit
I've
off
heard
subject. But
folks ask, when a child is born with a disability, and of course, we blame our creator for all that stuff and not understanding, but if you recontextualize, if you just take a step back and look at it, it's this what I read just was profound, that these individuals that come here that appear to, they're not suffering in their own mind. It's struggle for us to watch them, but yet what they are teaching us how to love. um,
oh, it feels so good. I love that. Yes, it's so true. They teach us empathy, unconditional love. Like, I mean, unconditional.
yes.
It's amazing. I did massage therapy for over 15 years, and I would go into old folks' home and into homes that with kids and people with disabilities, and sometimes even burn victims. And I would volunteer and massage them. And there's this one child who had a strong case of autism, and usually they don't like being touched. But that day she wanted to be touched. This almost wants to bring like tears to my eyes. And she chose me to lay on a table. And I start touching this child, and she just the most beautiful moans I have ever witnessed. Like she was in pure ecstasy. And I was giving her such a gift of being just giving her the energy of love and touch and affection. But she was giving me so much more.
Mm,
Oh, so
that is
beautiful.
precious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is wonderful. I found this quote too. I wanted to ask you about and hear your feedback on it. It's a Marianne Williamson quote, and she says, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure."
I know this one very well. It's 100% accurate. And I was saying it while you were reading it, and I know this one, but it's true. We are so powerful, y'all. You like, it's just like whatever power you think you can accomplish or have, it's even more than that. It's more than that. So if whatever goals and dreams that you have is like, oh my God, I want to be the president of the United States. It's like you can do that plus more.
Yeah.
It's insane. But if you leave with empathy, with love and kindness and respect and just full gratitude, you're going to hit that vibration. And you already have what you want in your life, but the things that you don't have yet is because you're not a vibrational match to it.
Mhm.
And so the question is, how do you become a vibrational match to something that you already have, you just don't see?
And, I'm sure we all have folks in our lives that we can say they just constantly seem to be having stuff going on. Just one thing after the other. And if we could help them by taking a step back and looking and just, it could be some ways of thought that they're hanging on to. Um, I used to, as a kid, think, why are you punishing me, God? It's not God. There is no such thing as God punishing me. It's the result of my thinking that's producing actions, that's producing results. And that's as simple as that. The universe does not look at my thought and say, well, that's not a very good thought, so I'm not going to act on that. No, it's not the way it works. It's a law. What we think gets produced. And it's when we see that, it's just to be able to get that message out in love to the world around us, and help folks to recognize when we're off the rails. And that's what with ALA I learned, is how important feedback is, and being open to hearing from others, because I'm not the best at seeing myself.
Yeah. I'm laughing because it's so funny is I hear these people is like, oh, I don't trust people. I don't trust people to do the right thing, but you trust that. So you do trust. You trust that the world is not going to support you and your desires and your dreams. You trust.
Right.
You're just trusting the wrong thing. And I'm laughing because it's
Yes.
like, yeah, things are happening to people in threes. Oh God, everything happens to me in threes. I'm just
Yes.
saying, like, this happens, and I just gotta wait for two other things to happen for my life just to go in shambles, And people were like, well, it's going to happen. And so it is.
Yes. You sounded like Teresa Caputo, Long Island medium from New York there for a minute. That's funny.
Fantastic. Glad I can call her in.
Anything else you'd like to share with us, Jules, before we wrap this up? It has been such a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, I'm just so happy to be here and be in your presence and on your podcast and to speak to your subscribers. And I'm just very grateful. And yeah, the last thing I can say is, if you believe in emotional intelligence for your children, please go to the website eqkidbooks.com, sign up, and for the release date of the first book, My Body, My Rules. And if you do have a book that you are writing, feel free to reach out to us as well. We aren't taking any books yet because I want to make sure to build up the whole marketing structure around everything. So it's basically a plug and play for you. Let me martyr the whole thing. But yeah, sign up for it. And I'm really looking forward to support your emotional intelligence journey with you and your children.
That's awesome. And let's put up that splash screen if we could, Daniel, so there's Juls Bindi. Her contact information, her website is eqkidbooks.com. And her Insta profile, she's got at Juls Bindi, JulsBindi, and at EQ Kidbooks, both of her Instagram accounts. So reach out to her. Keep an eye on this one, folks. Beautiful things ahead. I'm so grateful for your friendship, getting to know you, Jules. And I hope that you will be ready for my book, because I'm gonna be signing up, and maybe I'll get to be one of the first ones.
I would be more than grateful and honored for sure. You and your family, your son, such a blessing. He's such a blessing, such a big light.
Yeah, I'm grateful for him. Thank you so much again. Love you, and wish you well. I know everything's going to be amazing, because I know your thinking is amazing, and that's
Thank you
that's all
so
it
much.
takes.
Thank you. Much love to you. Mwah.
To you too, my friend. Thank you to all of you out there. If you want to get in touch with me, if you can go ahead and put up our website, it's theawakencollective.org. All of my social media accounts are out there. You can connect to me any way you'd like. If you are looking for coaching, or if there's a complimentary call, we can do that as well. All good stuff out there. Books I've written, books I highly recommend that have helped to transform my thinking, as we've talked about on this podcast. Thank you again to Daniel Anderson and Audio Alchemy Productions. Until next time, my friends, love and kindness always.